So let's have a look at what we'll be making in this video. If you go to the dashboard and go into the review plugin, we are going to be working on this section here. So we're going to be making the error message and the button. So this is going to add trial data to our database. So if we click on it and we go back to the review plugin, we will have added the successful data and we will have displayed that data at the bottom. Then if we go to the front page, we'll be able to see the information in our plugin. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So to complete the task that I just showed you in the video, what we need to do is complete these 4 tasks. So today we're going to be creating a button. We're going to be linking that button to an SQL query that inserts multiple records. We're then going to use a redirect the URL back to the main dashboard, and then we're going to add that HTML message. So stop the video and try and do it for yourself. Do remember that this video is part of a greater series. If you would like to learn what we've created so far, have a look at my plugin and my playlist. And if you want the code from last week's or the last video, go to the GitHub account that's below. Okay, let's get started. So hopefully you've stopped the video and you've attempted them. Let's try and go through them together. So our first step is to create a button that will add data to our WordPress database. So what we want to go to first is we go into our review class. Remember, you can get this from the GitHub account. And we go down and we go to the add template function. So we've added that already in. So at the moment we've just got our heading and our paragraph. What we want to do now is add in a form that has a button. So we've done this in our last video. So I'm just going to quickly add that now. So if we go under the paragraph, the form is HTML. There we go. So we need to put it into the section where before we open up the PHP, we want to add in our form. So just like we did in our last video, we are sending this form into the admin post, which allows us then to link up this admin post PHP file to a method that we're going to create in this class. So we need to make sure it's in admin post, and then we need to make sure that we have identified in the value a unique name, because that's how we're attaching it to a method. And then last off, we can just add a name to the button. So what we've done now is we've actually linked up our we've created a table that we haven't added data, but we will be able to link it up so it adds that data. So to link it up, what we need to do is we need to go to our all action method here, and we're going to be adding another action into that. Now we have to again do the same thing as we did on our last video, and instead of saying trial create table, we're saying trial data. So if we look at this here, this should or must match up with this. So this admin post, this is saying that we're going to attach it onto this PHP file, and we put in an underscore, and then we link it up to this. And then what we're going to say is when this is clicked on, we're going to execute this method. So what we've done now is we've created, or we've begun to link it up. So all we need to do now is create that new method that inserts the multiple records. So let's do that now. So importantly, the new method has to have the same name as trial data. So that's the name of our new method. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be calling that global WordPress database object there. So because it's here, I'm just going to put it at the bottom for now. So I've put it at the bottom, and we're going to call the global WordPress Database class. So this allows us to use the method query. So there are a number of important things to do when you're making a query for WordPress, and there's some best practices that was really helpful to follow, and I'm just going to quickly go over them. So it's always a good idea to make sure each of the values that you want to put in, so we're putting 3 values in. Each value or each record is in its own line. Make sure that there's spacing, so you've got the first value that'll fit into the first column, and then you've got space, second value, comma, space, third value. So keep it like that, and then brackets in between them. So what we'll do is we're going to insert 3 records straight into this table name. Now remember, because this is a class, this is actually referring to the attribute that we have assigned up here. So that means it's referring to this one here. So if you recall, in the last video we created the tables, so that means we not only have to insert into one table, we created 2 tables. So let's now add that second one in. So I'm going to use the same query and the same structure. So I'm going to use that query method from the WordPress database that we got, the global one there. Now there is another way you could do it. You could use the insert one. So instead of the inquiry one, you could use the insert one. However, that's much better at inserting a single value. So because we want to do multiple values, I generally use a query to insert multiple values into a table. Now what I've done is I've done it in the same way that this is the kind of structure I like. I like to put it so that I'm inserting it into a table, and that a table is a property up at the top. This means that if there's an error with it, it's an error with the properties, and I can kind of change it from there rather than looking through the SQL query that I made. That does mean that we'll have to add this into our properties. So I'm just going to add a new attribute in, and that attribute is just saying that the second record, or the record that we're going to add it to the WordPress comments table, and this is a typical normal WordPress comments that is there by default. Okay, so we have now completed our second task. So we'll insert multiple records into our database, and the next thing that we need to do is redirect it back to the main page. So if we go back to our method down here, all we want to do in the final section is just redirect it back to that admin dashboard. Okay, so what we're going to do is make sure that we redirect it and then we exit it. So the last thing that we want to do is make sure we redirect it back into the admin URL, which will put us back to the dashboard. And then best normal practice that WordPress recommends is, if you use this safe redirect, you exit it afterwards. Okay, so that will add in the information if we click the button. So the last thing, our last task, is now to add that HTML message to indicate whether the data has been or hasn't been added. So let's go back to our template and add that information in. Okay, so now we have to think, how do we figure out if the information has been retrieved or not? Well, do remember that we're in the constructor, we're going to be saying that if the table alert is there, if the table is there, so that means that there is no table alert, then we get data. And this method will retrieve that data and put it in this array of arrays. So that means if there are any records in the array of arrays, that means that data has been retrieved. If there are no records, if there is no information, that means the data hasn't been retrieved. So what that means is, if the table alert is true and the error of array of errors is 0, that means that there's no table that's been created and no data being gotten. If the table alert is false, this means the table has been created. However, if the array of arrays is 0, this means that there is no information in that table. So what we need to do now is, using that information, make our if statements in our template. So again, we'll go down to the template. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all this information and I'm going to replace it. Okay, so what this means here is, if the count, so it counts out how many arrays, so if the array of arrays equals 0, if that's how many records are in there, then we need to display some kind of error. Okay, so there'll be an alert, and this will be the CSS styling for that alert, and then in that CSS class there's going to just say error, there is no information. And then depending on what is the condition of that error, so remember, if the table alert is true, that means we haven't got a table, and that will be the error. If the count of the array equals 0, that means that there is no data there, so we'll add the trial data to the new table. And then else if it's just greater, I've said the same thing, but the color will be different. So the background color of this error will be red, the background color of this will be green, and I've put the error message success, the table was added. Okay, so all we need to do is make sure that we do not close that up, and that everything is properly closed. Okay, so that goes that if statement. Okay, so that should work. So let's have a look if those error messages link up. So we'll go back to our WordPress database and see if we completed the 4 tasks. Okay, so we're in our dashboard now, and the admin place. We can see the information at the moment. So at the moment we have the table's been added, and so we're only getting the error message, add the trial data to the new table. So if we click on it now, it redirects us to the main page. If we go back, we can see the green one, so we can see that the information has been successfully added. If we go into our WordPress tables now, and we have a look at here, we can see that we've got the review table. We click on here, and we can see our records that we've added. And if we go to the WP comment section, we can see our new records that we've added. So we've successfully completed all the tasks in this video. Okay, so thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it or if you learned something, please subscribe. I'm going to be doing these each week, and it would be great to get some support for the channel and improve the numbers. If you have any questions, leave a comment, or if you enjoyed the video, like. Hopefully you are now able to create a button to add multiple records to your WordPress table. Additionally, I have many other projects. So I've got a matrix animation plugin, a Valentine's Day plugin, and I've also got some Java and HTML, CSS courses. So please take a look at my playlists if any of those interest you, and I'll see you in the next video.